Hey, what's up? Hope everyone's doing all right. So we are on week 13. It's week 13, and the readings are Samuel 4 through Samuel 23. So I just finished reading this. I got a bit of a migraine today, so I just want to make sure that I got it done. Um, so this is kind of the middle of Samuel, and still got next week is still gonna be First Samuel and Second Samuel. Samuel's a lot, right? First and Second Samuel, and Second Samuel actually takes place a lot after Samuel actually dies. But it's pretty much just seems to be the rise and fall of or just the life, not the rise and fall, but the lives of the kings. Um, and and then it goes after Samuel. Then you have actually the kings is like um the chapters, and I guess Saul is the it's the it's the life of the kings through the eyes of the prophets, and then kings is like the life of the kings through the eyes of the kings. And so you have like the kings of Israel, and you only have a few of them where Israel's actually all combined, but you have this different interpretation or this different viewpoint. And I think that Samuel is a viewpoint through like a prophet's viewpoint, and then the kings is like a bit or a view through the king's different viewpoints. So you have these two kind of opposing different viewpoints, and I think that it comes across in these readings, and I think that's why like you have a lot of these events, and they're told, the duplicate events are told like the same thing, but it's like just a different version, or not necessarily a different version, but a different viewpoint. And you see that obviously through the four gospels too: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You have the same events that are taking place, but they're through a different viewpoint, and a different viewpoint of each of these people. And what's the difference between Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? I've had it explained, attempted to explain. I don't know the difference. Like I said, I have a pretty bad migraine right now, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. I just don't think I'd be able to give a great interpretation of this. My head hurts pretty bad. But, this is probably, it's a little bit of a bummer because I have a migraine, but this is probably one of my favorite readings. I really like reading about King David. He's definitely one of my favorite people in history. It just the thing that comes to mind is just like the brutality of the events in the Old Testament, and this is obviously as in Samuel. This is the same thing. I mean, a king is beaten, and Samuel comes and like hews him in pieces. Um, and Saul is looking for David, and doesn't, or he looking for him, and David goes and hides with like the priest, and like Saul comes, and one of his men, they like come and they just like slaughter all the men, women, and children where David was being at, and they didn't even know that. At least they said they didn't know that David was being held from the king, and so you just have these brutal events that happen in the Old Testament, and it's hard to like see how that's like justifiable or how that even happened. And so I think that a lot of people stray away from the Old Testament just because they aren't able to handle these events and to like incorporate them or to assimilate them into their knowledge of information of truth. And so it causes issues between them believing in God and believing things that have happened, and that the Bible is true, because it's hard for them to be, okay, God is real, God exists, God is loving and kind. But then if I have to, if I take the whole entire Bible, then I also have to believe and understand these events that are just like so brutal. And so like, I wouldn't want these events to happen to me, and I don't want to happen to people I care about, or really anybody, because I love all people. And so you're a Christian, so you love all people. And since you love all people, it's a normal thing for you not to want these events to happen. And so I think that if you read the Old Testament and these events seem brutal to you and just evil, and you know just horrible, then that's a good sign, because you're supposed to love all people. And so the fact that you love all people and you think that you feel these events as like horrible events, that's a good thing. And but these events that happen, you just have to be able to, although you love all people and you have this pain that arises from imagining these events happening to anybody, because you're supposed to love everybody. You just have to trust in God that this is the right thing. And so through growth, since we're all sinners here in this sinner world, through growth, you're going to have pain. And the pain is inevitable, and there will be pain, and life is a struggle. But through this growth and this pain and this struggle, you grow and you become what God wants you to be. Um, we're all sinners, and so in order to uh, to grow in a sinful world, there has to be pain. I feel like, at least, or at least there seems to be. And so yes, you view the old, and I know I just never really thought about this before, and so it's kind of like it's a pretty cool thought for me, and I'm just glad that I was able to have it, or what was it, I was able to hear, or what it was explained to me. It's just like, yeah, when you read the Old Testament, and these things, horrible things happen. If you love everybody, then these things are going to seem unfair or just horrible, and that's okay. But you just have to trust that this is real. This did happen, and you can't believe this stuff didn't. I don't think you can believe this stuff happened unless God is in your heart and He reveals the truth to you. And so, um, I think that when you should read the Bible and how much you should read the Bible is up to each individual. Are they ready to be able to handle the truth that the Bible has for them? That's like in God's time. And so, um, I read the Bible from cover to cover um, every year, but I didn't start doing that till I was like 35 years old. And so, even though I feel like my walk with God is pretty strong, I don't think I was able to handle the truth of the Bible until I was like 35 years old. So, um, I don't think that, with my son, I don't like force him to read the Bible. I like him to read the Bible. I give him incentive to, but I definitely don't force him to do that, because he might not be ready for the truth that the Bible has to, tells him, and his walk with God just isn't quite there yet. And so the New Testament, I think, is a lot easier for people to read, and I think that's fine. But I think that for people that are ready for solid meat, that the reading of the Bible should be done. And so, a lot of pastors stay away from reading the Bible from cover to cover, at least in their church, and that might just be not be like a reflection of how bad the pastor is doing, but just how um, the people are only ready for milk; they're not ready for solid meat, and so pastors would love to give them solid meat, but they're not ready. The congregation isn't ready. And I think for some instances the congregation is ready, but the pastor is not ready to give them meat. I think that the whole entire setup of the churches that are in the United States right now is just super flawed. I am going to try to go to a Ukrainian church soon, and mainly the thing that I talked to some coworkers at work, and the church, this Ukrainian church in Spokane, it's from my understanding at least, it's not Trinitarian, and so they're Christian, they're not Trinitarian, and they're not Jehovah's Witnesses. So this is something that I feel like I can at least check it out and to see if it's something that I could be a part of. And so for the readings for this week for each day, so I have for Monday was the Ark of God was taken, and so the Ark of God was taken, and because it seems like the people were evil and the priests were evil, and so the Ark of God was taken, and wherever it went, like it just cursed the people, and they gave them hemorrhoids, and eventually the Philistines who took it gave it back to the Jews, and like sent offerings with it, and so like they knew that the Ark of the Testimony of God was like stronger than all their other gods, and brought a lot of pain and suffering to them. And so Tuesday had the children of Israel ask for a king, and so even though God tells them that they shouldn't have a king, they still ask for a king, and He tells them exactly what a king is going to do, and so He doesn't want a king reign over them, and so like, well, the priests weren't doing good, or the judges weren't doing very good either, but it's they were still, God was still able to do better with the judges than He would with the king, as far as the benefit of man was concerned, the benefit of His people. And so although they see the issues of the times and the struggles of the time, they're like, well, we want things perfect. And I think God's like, okay, well, things are never going to be perfect because it's a sinful world, but it's going to be a lot better if you do things my way and have the judges reign over you instead of the king. And the people like, no, we want a king. And then they got a king, and it just wasn't better than the judges, at least not what God wanted for His people. And so Wednesday I have Saul, and Saul was God's chosen man, right? And so it's like, if Saul was God's chosen king, or God chose Saul to be king. Like, why would he do that when Saul did so bad? And there's a lot of explanations. The one thing that I was thinking of is like, Saul would have done bad regardless of what position he was in, whether he was king or he was, just a man. And he would have brought, it's very possible he would have brought these sins anyways. Because, okay, well, why did God make Saul king and then Saul did all these horrible things and he's pretty much damned for the things that he did? And it's very possible he would have been damned regardless if he was king or not. But at least if he's king, then the people in history can see what falling away from God does. And so it's like on the world stage, it's on the big stage, so people can see the sin that somebody not following God's rule is, and so it can be seen through the decades and through all of human history, pretty much. The faults of not following God and not doing what God wants you to do. Even if you're king, you're not perfect, and you're not escaping from damnation. And so Thursday I have Jonathan. Jonathan and David they were really close, and Jonathan did a lot to help David, and he did a lot to help Israel, and I think Jonathan is pretty pretty righteous individual, and I think that um, the events that he did, and he didn't even try to be king. He just let David be king, and he loved David, and he tried to help his dad, and he brought victories, and he had a lot of faith in the fights that he had. And so I think that he's a very honorable individual, and there's very little criticism of Jonathan in the Bible that's recorded, but of course he's a man, and so all men are sinners, and so I would imagine, just like every other man, there's a lot of criticism that can be placed at his foot, just like every other man. And then so Friday, which is today, is David. Today is Good Friday, and it's happened to be that today is the with the way that the readings go. This is kind of the day of David, and you can't there's just so much that can be said about David. I just think, when I think of David, I think of the idea, okay, so if you make 1,000 decisions and you make 50 decisions that are wrong, but you still made 950 good decisions. Those 50 decisions that you made are wrong or bad. But if you make 100 decisions and you make 20 bad choices out of those 100, that's still 20 out of 100. So if you would have made 1,000 decisions, you would have made 200 bad decisions. And so I think David had a lot of decisions that he had to make, and a lot of different struggles and a lot of different events that happened. And there's definitely things that he did, I think, that were wrong. But he just made so many choices and so many decisions and had to do so many things. And so he's remembered as the great king because of all the decisions that he's made and all the opportunities that he had to mess up. I think that, or it seems to be that history is, states that he made, that he was a great king and did really, really good, and he was after God's heart. And although he made horrible choices and made horrible mistakes, we all do, and we're all men, and that's something that we do. But overall, I think that God critiques him as an amazing individual, an amazing king, and he loves him and will always love him. And I think that, when David, like all men struggle with women, and then when he was older and he was cold, they brought a virgin to him, and she warmed his bones and laid with him, but he never actually, from my interpretation, he never slept with her. And I would imagine being an old man, and this was a painful experience for him to go through, and at the end, a way for redemption, for a way for him to be redeemed for some of the mistakes that he's made. But still, I think overall, I think this was probably very painful for him and a difficult thing for him to have to go through. And so for me, I try at least not to make choices in my life where I have to be groomed in a way that I don't want to be because of choices that I made. So I think this is just a lesson, and I hope at the end of the day, at the end of my life, that I don't have to be pruned, not groomed, pruned in a way that would just seem, at least personally to me, that would just seem so difficult and so painful. I think that not giving in to temptation is so difficult, and it's a very painful thing, and to have those level of temptation and not give into it, I can only imagine the difficulty this would be. And so, yeah, David, obviously, super cool guy, right? One of the coolest men that ever lived. And we learn a lot from him. We honor him through the ages. All right, so that's pretty much all I got. And I hope everyone's doing okay. God bless and happy truth seeking.